Let's fire those sirens up, guys. Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. I hope you're having a wonderful, blessed day. It's June the 15th, 2024. We have had a missing child in the state of Kentucky, 8-month-old Miya Rudd. Now, I was hopeful that maybe a family member or friend had this baby, and then I got to thinking, well, maybe they sold the child because there is a lot of human trafficking going on. However, that's not the case. Detectives found a body Friday that could be that of missing 8-month-old baby girl, according to the KSP. Officers found the body of the infant during the search of a house. The body, which was partially decomposed, was consistent with Miya Rudd, according to a news release from the police. The body will be taken to the state medical examiner's office for an autopsy and positive identification. The autopsy will determine the child's manner of death. Trooper Corey King told Evansville television station WEIF. King told the television station the body was found underneath a lot of debris in the family's home in Reynolds Station. He said there were drugs and drug residue inside the home because it was a dangerous situation for both investigators and the dogs they were using to search for the baby. Authorities had to clean that out before it was safe to go in and do more of a thorough search on Friday. The search for the baby began more than a week ago after family members asked the police to check on her. Relatives said they have not seen the baby since late April, according to the citation in the case. State police said they found the baby's parents, Tesla Tucker, 29, and Cage Rudd, 30, at a motel in Owensboro with a large amount of drugs, but the baby was not with them. The two said they didn't know where she was, according to the citation. The two are charged with child abandonment, possession of fentanyl, trafficking in methamphetamine, first-degree child abuse, trafficking in marijuana, trafficking in alleged drugs, and engaging in organized crime. Now, there have also been 8 people total arrested in this. All grandparents, a couple of friends, and the parents. King, a state police spokesman, told the Evansville independent television station earlier this week that Kentucky social workers had removed Miya's 3 siblings from Tucker and Rudd, and also told Louisville station WHAS that child welfare workers plan to remove Miya from the home after blood from the umbilical cord tested positive for methamphetamine. Police has arrested several people close to the couple as they raced to try to find Miya. Police charged one of the baby's grandfathers, Ricky Smith, 56, with first-degree child abuse, abandonment of a minor, engaging in organized crime, and numerous drug-related charges. They arrested one of Miya's grandmothers, Billy Smith, 49, on an outstanding warrant for second-degree assault that was not related to this case. When police searched the Davies County home of Miya's other grandparents, who were keeping her 3 siblings who had been removed from the parents' home, they were both arrested as well. Talitha D. Tucker was charged with being a fugitive from Indiana, and David Tucker, 53, was arrested on a warrant charging him with non-payment in an earlier case, according to the state police. Police arrested 2 other people on drug charges during the search for Miya. One, Timothy Roach, 37, allegedly threw a drug not prescribed to him under a vehicle as police pulled up. Another, Brody C. Payne, 28, of Ohio County, was charged with trafficking in meth, trafficking in a alleged drug, trafficking in marijuana, engaging in organized crime, first-degree wanton endangerment. Payne had been living in the house where Miya was for several months before he was charged and had been using the U.S. Postal Service to facilitate his alleged drug sales, state police said. Now, you're going to see all of the news reports and videos as it unfolded throughout the days. My heart goes out to the family of this baby. I know this is hard times. I couldn't imagine losing an 8-month-old child. I really couldn't. So, here's the newscast. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. And I'll see you guys on the next video.
Kentucky State Police opened a missing child investigation in Ohio County for 8-month-old Miya Tucker out of Reynolds Station. Authorities say the baby was last suspected to be in the care of her parents, Kate Rudd and Tesla Tucker, who are now both behind bars on drug charges. The 8-month-old was nowhere to be found during a welfare check. KSP is requesting anyone with information on her whereabouts to contact KSP at 270-826-3312.
And just in tonight, additional charges have now been filed against the parents of a missing 8-month-old child in Ohio County. Kentucky State Police say Tesla Tucker and Kate Rudd are now facing several charges, including new charges of trafficking of legend drugs and engaging in organized crime. Now, that is in addition to drug possession and abandonment of a minor.
Now, this comes as day 2 of the search for their baby girl comes to a close. Today, community members joining in that search. 8-month-old Miya Tucker was discovered missing Thursday following a welfare check at a home in Reynolds Station.
Eyewitness News' Sydney Davis has the latest.
I seen it this morning, what was going on. My wife heard about it last night. We got a phone call from our friends.
Shane Hemingway says the news of missing 8-month-old Miya Tucker is heartbreaking. The neighbor is springing into action with help from a friend.
I told him I'm coming over to give him a hand, maybe going through the backyards, up in the woods or anything, just to see if I can help.
KSP says baby Miya has brown hair and green eyes. Police say during a welfare check at the Reynolds Station home on Deanfield Church Road, they found drugs, but no baby.
It's a shame, especially over here, because everybody is nice, except for these people.
Miya's parents, Kate Rudd and Tesla Tucker, were arrested at an Owensboro Super 8 on charges of child abandonment and drug possession. Neighbors say they didn't realize a baby lived at the address. Hemingway says the pair raced cars and spun out on gravel roads, even when asked nicely to stop.
We've had nothing but problems with them. My friend tried to get a car done, tires put on it, and they stole his rotors and all kinds of things.
Still, he's willing to put that aside to help their child.
Kind of actually nervous if we do find her. I'm really hoping to find her alive, but maybe somebody just has her.
A third person who lived in the home, 56-year-old Ricky Smith, was also arrested on drug and gun charges, as well as child abuse. In Reynolds Station, Sydney Davis, Eyewitness News.
We start tonight with developing news. Kentucky State Police have arrested the grandmother of a missing baby in Ohio County. Troopers say they went to the home of 49-year-old Billy Smith today while searching for 8-month-old Miya Rudd. While there, troopers discovered Smith had a warrant from an unrelated case and she was taken into custody. Officials say they did not find Miya Rudd. The baby's parents, Tesla Tucker and Kate Rudd, and the grandfather, Ricky Smith, were arrested last week. They face child abandonment, child abuse, and drug charges. They're due in court tomorrow morning.
This morning on the search for missing 8-month-old Miya Rudd, Kentucky State Police tell us they arrested Miya's grandparents, Talitha and David Tucker of Owensboro. And this is actually the second set of grandparents to be arrested. The Tuckers are the parents of Miya's mother, Tesla Tucker, who was arrested last week. Both are now in the Davis County Detention Center. Troopers did not locate baby Miya with the Tuckers. She was reported missing last Thursday, but she hasn't been seen since April. If you have any information on where the little girl might be, you're urged to call KSP Post 16 with tips. That number is on your screen now. It's 270-826-3312.
First at 5, an urgent search is underway for a missing 8-month-old baby who was last seen a month ago. 2 people were arrested in connection to the case last night, and now a third person is also facing charges in the heartbreaking investigation. While law enforcement continues to search for the baby, all 3 people facing charges appeared in front of a judge today. 44 News reporter Amy Fazenbaker has our big story tonight, new at 5. 56-year-old Ricky Smith was arrested on Wednesday for gun, drug, child abuse, and organized crime charges. Kentucky State Police have now revealed that they believe that there's a tie between him and the disappearance of an 8-month-old baby. According to officials, a search warrant and welfare check was performed at a home in Reynolds Station, Kentucky on Thursday in regards to Miya Tucker. Miya Tucker is an 8-month-old baby girl who is described to have brown hair and green eyes. Once officials weren't able to locate the infant, her mother, 29-year-old Tesla Tucker, and 30-year-old Cage Rudd were both arrested for drug possession and abandonment of a minor. Search teams, including the Ohio County Emergency Management Team, have been looking for the child. Today, all 3 suspects appeared in court in Owensboro for their arraignment in front of a judge. All 3 are being held at the Davis County Detention Center and will appear in court for their preliminary hearings on June 12th. There are no updates on where the child is at this time, but officials asked the public to contact Kentucky State Police if they have any information regarding the case. Reporting in Davis County, Amy Fazenbaker, 44 News.
This is really a case about how illicit street drugs can and will destroy lives, as well as erode our communities.
As the search continues for missing 8-month-old baby Miya Rudd out of Reynolds Station in Ohio County, Kentucky State Police were back at her house on Deanfield Church Road, searching those woods behind it. Now, this isn't their first time on the property. The canine handlers who were there previously indicated there was enough evidence in the area to warrant a second search.
We have no evidence that that's the case, that she is deceased, but we also don't have anything to suggest she's alive either.
KSP Trooper Corey King explains that to understand the story around Miya's disappearance, we've got to rewind. Now, social services have taken away 3 of her older siblings after they say they found drugs in their house in unfit living conditions. Now, he says Miya's umbilical cord actually tested positive for meth when she was born in October of 23, and social services were in the process of potentially removing her as well. Now, fast forward to the end of May, and law enforcement says they were notified by family that they hadn't seen Miya since late April. When they investigated her parents, Tesla Tucker and Cage Rudd, at an Owensboro hotel, they found meth, fentanyl pills, and drug paraphernalia all in plain view, but no baby. When they went to their house, same story. Bad living conditions, drugs, but still no Miya. Trooper King says following leads has led to several arrests already, including Miya's grandparents, but they had the dogs out on Tuesday to achieve their ultimate goal, finding Miya.
At this point, she is truly a missing child, and but there is no information that anyone has her, that they sold this child, that this child was abducted. We are getting very little to no information from those who should know the most.
While the search with the dogs once again proved unfruitful, King says they're far from giving up. He says they're going to be bringing in specialized equipment to test the ground in this area later on in the week. In the meantime, though, they're asking for your help.
I'm hopeful that if there is someone who's holding this child for the family, that they will come forward, and there will be no charges. You were doing what you thought was right at the time by taking in this baby, but we need to know where she's at and make sure she's okay.
With every day that passes, the community and Miya's family are still waiting on answers. For Trooper King and law enforcement, they're holding on to hope while preparing for the worst.
The sense of spirit with the investigators today is still hopeful and optimistic. However, the longer this goes, the more grim of an outcome this will be. Either way, everyone's looking for closure. I believe the community deserves it, the family deserves it, and we as an agency investigating this deserves to know what happened to baby Miya.
The title is Trooper T. R-O-O-P-E-R, Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, King, K-I-N-G. So mic check's doing okay? Mm-hmm. Good. All right. Okay. So this is truly a case on how illicit street drugs can and will destroy lives and cause the erosion of our community. I think it's fair to say that in order for us to describe what we are doing and conducting today, we need to backtrack a little bit into how this all began. So this particular family that we are investigating, this goes back some years ago, actually.
If you're looking through the records with the Department of Community-Based Services, they had previously removed 3 older children, the siblings to Maya. They removed all 3 based on the conditions of the house. No surprise that drugs is in the forefront of the removal. Those children are safe. They're at a location with family, and they're, to my knowledge, doing well. So Maya was born in October of last year, and Social Services, shortly after the birth, was looking to, as well, remove this child. They had no contact with the child or the family, and a family member around the end of April or so noticed they have not seen this, at the time, 6-month-old child. Several months later, our agency was notified by a family member of this, of the Rudd family, and reported that they had not seen this now 8-month-old child since the end of April, 1st of May. Our agency responded. We looked. We were working closely with community-based services. We did locate both parents at Motel 6 on Gates Drive in Owensboro. When we located the 2 parents, no child was discovered. However, a multitude of really heavy street drugs, including fentanyl or possible fentanyl, hasn't quite been tested yet, and suspected crystal methamphetamine was located at the hotel. No child was discovered. That led us to the residence you see behind me, where another search warrant was conducted, and more illicit street drugs were discovered in this residence. No child was discovered. So that investigation prompted, at this point, the missing persons. The parents have not been cooperative in this investigation as to the whereabouts of their child. So we launched, and what led us to this point, further search warrants, which led into more arrests, all related to drugs, not the child. So today, we're utilizing cadaver dogs at this location where we stand. This is 41 Hardin Lane. It's a church, and by looking at the maps, you will see a cemetery in behind this church. The cemetery, as well as the heavy wooded area with some ditches. There's a variety of debris that we are seeing in these ditches. These cadaver dogs will be looking in that debris, as well as looking for any type of signs of disturbed earth. And particularly with these canines, they're really good at detecting an odor called cadaverine, which is emitted from decaying flesh. Those dogs will assist us in that. Hopefully, we're very hopeful and optimistic that we would find her alive. Maybe perhaps a family member has her. But the longer this goes on, the more grim it seems. If this child is buried or deceased on this property, this team of cadaver dogs should be able to source where this child is at, and that's when we can do a recovery at that point. If this does not, if this fails and we do not find Maya here, later this week we're bringing in some specialized equipment from the medical examiner's office, and we're going to do a very thorough search utilizing this technology, as well as a team of canines, to go further to where, at this point, where we believe she very well could be.
I know, obviously, there's the grandparents and the parents that are involved, but in terms of that you've conducted interviews and certain things like that, maybe you even found some evidence in terms of what's kind of going on. Can you just, because I was in the courtroom yesterday with 3 of them, and there was no remorse on their face, if I'm being quite honest, in terms of, the drugs that you were talking about. Have you ever seen anything like this while you've been on the force in terms of a child going missing? 3 were all, already were with child services or with family. Can you kind of tell me a bit about that too?
Well, that's a good question, and I think, yes, I have. I think really this goes to the power of addiction. It's no surprise that we're talking about methamphetamine, fentanyls, cocaine, heroin, all these heavy drugs. The underlying component to addiction a lot of times is selfishness. And when you are overtaken
by a powerful addiction such as this, that is your priority. And you see that right now. And that is scary. Hence the reason why we have social services doing their job in removing some of these children. I would argue that anyone who is so addicted to such a powerful drug like this, if you as a parent would rather reach for a tutor pipe and not a pacifier or bottle or play with your children, you probably don't need to bringing children into this world. It's sad, but that's the reality, and we do see this. It seems to us, at least through the investigative sense, that none of the participants involved in this are helpful at all to this missing 8-month-old, which as an investigator, that would tell you they know the answer perhaps. And that's what we're trying to find. Sadly, the spirit of our investigators today, we have been very hopeful and optimistic, but the longer this goes on, the more grim the outcome is likely. And I think with the power of addiction and methamphetamine, that really says a lot about what this does to our community as well as the families. I'm hopeful. No, go ahead, sir. The amount of trafficking, we did learn that through the second component of the search. So that will be the residents in behind me. The amount of drugs, and that was methamphetamine, marijuana, I believe some of the fentanyls that we found, that all comes into the engaging in organized crime, because there is a cell component to this. And going back to your question with the amount of drugs that we're talking about and how this plays a role in family life, every aspect of interviewing and investigating, merely looking for the safety of this child, has netted an arrest, a drug arrest, that really all we're trying to do is get the answers to where the whereabouts of this child. But sadly, everybody in this that's involved in this, when we go to talk to them, we find drugs, and they go to jail. And that's where we stand. And, I think really, hopefully we will find the answers really soon, but we're not overly getting a whole lot of information from where the source really needs to come from. And that's where we're relying on technology. We're relying on forensic interviews through non-family members, as well as what tangible evidence we have recovered so far. And that's what led us to this location and utilizing the cadaver dogs to see if some of these tips are true and what tangible evidence is pointing us in what direction we have. We have been getting a whole lot of tips, which is really necessary in a case like this. You'll notice that I've really put out a whole lot of updates, news releases, which may not seem like a lot to the casual reader. However, it is keeping it in the forefront like it should be, because someone knows, someone has information on the whereabouts of this child, or at least knows what has happened to this child. That's what we need to know. And that's the only way that we as investigators, the community at large, and the family can get closure.
So were there tips that led you to search this area?
There was enough information through forensic interviewing, as well as what tangible evidence we have recovered from the scene, that suggests we need to concentrate and focus right here in this area. Now, it doesn't mean that we will net the result that we want or need, but it does mark another tip, another theory off what we believe is the right area.
You mentioned later this week another possible search. Is that here in the same area or a different place?
That's our plan. It's going to be nearby this location. We have no information suggesting that it broadens out well beyond the area of this community.
Do you know how many tips y'all have gotten in so far?
I do not know the amount. I do know it's quite substantial, which, again, kudos to all those who have taken time out of their day to let us know what they have seen. Some of the tips, quickly we can debunk, and some we really have to follow up. Largely, some of these arrests that we have made were based on tips that led us to certain areas, and that's where we'll find people trafficking Suboxone, methamphetamine, possible fentanyls. Either way, that does net arrests, but at the end of the day, we still don't have our hands on this 8-month-old baby.
Is this the first time y'all brought cadaver dogs here today?
No, this is not. This is actually the second time we have brought in a team. We actually had multiple teams of cadaver dogs. They searched the property in behind me. That was enough to say, yes, it's worth going to neighboring areas based on the handlers' reactions to what the dogs were indicating to them. So that's where it led us to this area, where we have one team of cadaver dogs working it off to my right. And they're working the cemetery as well as the neighboring woods. So they're working today in that area. Hopefully the handlers will be able to get some information, a better read off that. It was best described to me from a canine handler how these dogs operate. The best analogy that was explained to me is that you can pop popcorn in your kitchen, remove the whole bag of popcorn and microwave, take it out of the house. You know when you walk into that house, you smell popcorn. It's there, but you don't know exactly where it's popped. With these canines' capability, they can come in and tell you exactly based on the strength of that smell where that's at. Now these canines, that's what they will be utilizing is essentially just that. They will come, they will smell those gases from any type of possible decay, the cadaverine and several other type of gases that are emitted. We can smell it in the air perhaps. We don't hear for the record, but if we were to smell it in the air, we may not be able to tell exactly where it's coming from, but these canines will. They will take you to the strong source, and that's what we need. So based on the day, that's why during this time of day, based on thermals, daytime or morning through day, you have upward thermals. Evening times, you have downward thermals. That plays a role in how these canines will operate, and this will give us a sense if that cadaverine or any other type of odor is in the air, it will take us at least to that general area where we need to concentrate and focus on our search.
Do you know why she was still in the home if the other children had been removed?
It was my understanding that this child, after birth, the umbilical cord tested positive for methamphetamine. That was the reason for the removal. The parents, as well as the child, they removed. The parents left, were basically moving around, keeping from being captured. This went on for some time. I'm not sure exactly when the tests come back on the positive umbilical cord, but obviously it was shortly after the birth. And at that point, social services was not able to make contact with the family. They were unable to find them. My guess is perhaps the rest of the family was not overly helpful to locating the family as well as the child. That's when our agency come involved, was when it was actually reported to us through a family member. And at that point, that was around the end, I think it was May 30th perhaps, when our agency got involved. We did quickly locate the family at a motel, and that's where, as mentioned earlier, we found the amount of drugs. The arrests are occurring based on these investigations, but it's all drug related and has, at this point, nothing essentially with the missing child.
Because from what Tesla had said as well, is that Miya was technically in the custody of Billy. I'm guessing it was her mother. So in terms, I guess they were all moving around, but also Billy technically did have custody. Is that correct? Or
I don't have that source with me. It was my understanding perhaps it's the other grandmother. Right. It's a family member, but I don't think it was Billy Smith that has or had custody of these children. But I'm not 100% with that. I think social services should have that. Maybe perhaps our lead investigator will have that, but I don't have the answer to that. But either way, those children were removed, taken to a safe location, and that was the intent with this baby, is to go with the siblings to those safer location, and they were never located.
So was the criminal abuse based on finding the meth in the building, or based on the other kids?
I'm not sure of the reason for the child abuse, if it was based on the testing positive of meth. It very well could be. That's a good question, too. But I think also the conditions that this baby was living in, it would be very, very easy with how unsanitary this condition is, not only with the amount of debris in the house, but also you got to keep in mind fentanyl, which is very transdermal, can absorb in the skin by touch. And by having it out on the open tables, it wouldn't take much for an infant to touch something, absorb into the skin, and unfortunately die. Because we're talking fentanyls, depending on what fentanyls it is. My guess, it is not acrofentanyl or carfentanyl. It is somewhere around 100 times more potent than morphine alone. So it will not take much at all to absorb into a baby's skin and result in its death. Not saying that's what happened, but the conditions alone would warrant a child abuse charge.
We begin with breaking news right now here at 4. What's believed to be the remains of missing Miya Rudd of Reynolds Station were found today. Kentucky State Police have been searching for Miya Rudd for a week now. That search started when family told officers they hadn't seen the 8-month-old since April. So far, both her parents and both sets of grandparents have all been arrested, along with 2 men connected to the home where she lived. And that home is where her body was found decomposed. Troopers say she was hidden inside the house. Miya's parents are facing child abuse and abandonment charges. The latest arrest is 28-year-old Brody Payne. He's charged for his alleged role in a drug operation at the Rudd home, where he also lived.